really good, but I brought up a bunch of James Herron art and like was trying to take in all the squishy goo. So when Astrid like
Right.
pops, when she squishes the eyeball, like I've got stuff just like gushing out of the sides, and I was trying to make it look nice and tasty.
Excellent. Well, I can't wait to see that. For those of you just tuning in, we're talking about a comic book that we're making. Maybe one day you'll get to read it. If you're interested in reading any of our comic books, you can go to mouthbreathersguild.com, find all of our comics. It'll take you to our webtoons. It'll take you to our physical purchases that you can buy. It will take you to so many places. You can meet the guild, join the Discord, follow us on socials, watch us here on Twitch. Oh man, it's crow time. Ain't that right? Don't I know it? Ooh, I want to make that chat bigger. 40-second snipe. I love it. That chat is like barely visible. I'm gonna have to tinker with that.
Hey, it's on there, right?
It's on there. It's something. You know what I mean? What if I just put it over everything? That might be really funny. Just an overlay over the whole screen, and then when the next chat comes in, it'll just be across whatever we're looking at. I don't know, man. We're just having fun with it. Welcome, as always, to Mouth Breathers Guild Live, our live stream, live podcast, long form comic book analysis, where we go over a book in depth this week in honor of the new remake of the movie, which we're not going to share opinions on. We're going to hold off judgment, maybe until the end as a sweet little treat for the viewers who stick around. We'll talk about The Crow, the movie, and the new movie. Manny is live, but you guys are live. Yes, we are live, large, and in charge. Anyway. The Crow. As always, with our plugs, just very quickly, mouthbreathersguild.com. As I mentioned previously, you can get this anthology of Westerns that we've made with all North Carolina artists. It's lit. You can get Remise, Manny's Dark Fantasy Epic. It is fantastic. Renowned, our anthology of sci-fi stories created by Manny and myself. We've got, not on our mouthbreathersguild.com, but you can go out and buy The Time Police. It's on Etsy. You can find it now. Ben, tell them where to find it.
Yep, go to Etsy. It is the Time Police store on Etsy, and we're starting to push all this stuff on Instagram and Facebook. So if you hang out there and your friends are looking at my profile, then it'll be out there. Also on the link tree. Check it out.
Hell yeah, it's on the link tree. We love that. Otherwise, I'm gonna leave the messages up. Always show messages. Oh, I can make the font size bigger. That makes life easier. I'm just tinkering with chat settings while we're going. Sorry to those who are impacted by this on YouTube, just watching me noodle with settings. So y'all, I'm going to start, as we always do, with a quick solicit off the back of the book, and then we are going to go into our first impressions. All right. Our first impression. Okay. It's not death if you refuse it. James O'Barr and the Crow paved the way. Oh, no, these are just pull quotes. It's on this side. Here we are. When James O'Barr poured the pain and anguish of a personal tragedy into the drawings that comprise The Crow, his intensely cathartic story of Eric, who returns from the dead to avenge his and his fiance's murder at the hands of a street gang, resonated with readers around the world. The illustrated tale that became the thrilling and spectacular screen triumph was then presented in 2011 as an acclaimed expanded edition, reflecting the vision of the author's original intention, complete at last with 30 pages of additional artwork, including the closing segment Sparkle Horse and the touching scene on August Noel. This also has an introduction by James O'Barr, lost sequences using the artist's original technique, and this special hardcover will cover the whole legacy-ists. A journey of an avenging angel, a celebration of true love as a fierce, intelligent, and unforgettable as when it was conceived. It's kind of more of a sell on the new edition. But we did it. We're here. The Crow. It rocks.
Oh, yeah. It does.
Manny, this is, I know, one of your absolute favorite books, seminal in the development of Manny. I want to hear your first take.
Okay, my first take is, so James O'Barr, like we know the personal tragedy that he went through.
Well,
so you can
explain it. Explain it.
No, I'm gonna explain it. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. It's just you can feel that pain on the pages, and he did not intend to publish this book. It was mainly art therapy. He was a mechanic, so he's skinning his hands like on freaking cars all day. for like 12 hours or whatever, comes home, working in Detroit, comes home and starts to draw pages whenever the urge strikes. So James O'Barr, like young guy, around like 18 or so, meets the love of his life, and his car is broken down. He can't really like afford whatever it is, like a ticket or whatever he was about to get. Calls up his fiance. She's about to go and pick him up, and then she gets struck by a drunk driver. So he blamed himself for years, like even during the creation of this thing. And it was the creation of The Crow that actually got him through the him forgiving himself, which I think is beautiful. And it's also just, this isn't just filled with action and everything. It does have action, but it's mainly a love story. And that's like, I don't know, that struck me like in my first dive into the interest of doing comics and stuff. And it was recommended to me by somebody a long time ago, and they were like, "Oh, you don't know The Crow? You haven't read The Crow?" Like, I've known about the movie, but and then he was like, "Dude, you gotta read it." And it was filled with poetry, filled with poems, metaphors in the art, like every single thing on the pages. He's not making this shit up. Like he's got the street corners, he's got the characters, he's met these types of people before, even those names he's heard before. These are all, it's like all in Detroit. This is basically what he said in an interview. He lived in the part of Detroit where Eminem was afraid to go. Thought that was funny. But he was also a Marine. James O'Barr was also a Marine. So after, I think it was after his fiance passed, he joined the military, was also going through, you know, substance abuse of various types, and does not recommend heroin.
Oh, that's surprising.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, notice how, well, we'll get to it, but there's no one injecting heroin. It's something else.
But yeah, it's just filled with a lot of heart and soul. Like, just literally, this is his heart on the pages, and that's his anger, basically dealing with it and blaming himself, and then he finally gets through it, and that's kind of what struck with me. It's a very universal theme that I think everyone can sort of relate to. Is like going through a dark time, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean? You can forgive yourself by mistakes that you made. Like you can get through it. If you can get through it, you can get through it, kind of thing. So, and also this is his first book. Like this was his first comic, and you can see from the development from the first page to the last. Like there's growth throughout this whole thing, like everywhere. You know?
Yeah, no, it's just very funny that Brock said sub hole sweat, and it's just like chilling on the stream. No, yeah, 100%. This book is like deeply emotionally moving to me.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I was like, as soon as I saw the references to Joy Division in the beginning, I just pressed play on all of Joy Division's discography, and I just had it playing while I was reading this. Yeah. And it just like put me in a place, because I also have a very personal relationship to Joy Division's music. And like the goth connection, I mean, obviously it's there if you've seen the movie, it's here if you read the book, but it's like truly deeply embedded, and not just like at a surface level aesthetic value, like the deep mood and atmosphere of goth music, of goth culture, of the origins in romantic poetry that goth kind of culture has. This book is a long poem. Like, there is an element of plot here, but this book values above all else feeling. And so like it creates, one thing I love about this book is kind of how its main consistency is inconsistency. Like, obviously this was done patchwork over many years, so it's going to feel and look different page over page, but like it doesn't matter that the way the Crow may be framed or looks, like how he kind of squashes and stretches and morph in a very expressionist way, and like how some pages are just like all black and like nightmares. Obviously there's like the newer stuff that gets added into this cut version, which is like different. It still works, but then like I love how stylized and exaggerated the Crow can be, but like the renderings and the draftsmanship of like cityscapes and backgrounds can be like photorealistic at times. Like
Yeah.
it's just
He
like
does experiment a lot in this book. And
Yeah.
it's not digital at all. It is pen on paper.
mhm.
The whole thing. He's hand lettering it. He's doing it all, man. And that's what's another thing. Like he did this whole thing by hand. So
This is the kind
Yeah,
of
he was-
art that can only
that-
be created by one person. You know what I mean?
yeah.
If you read that in his foreword, like it was awesome hearing him talk about a lot of the constraints he had were just due to the way that the printing press, like the way that a web press worked. So he had to be very mindful of that when he was creating this. And it was really, as you said, Manny, just a catharsis for him, right?
Yep.
Being able to deal with all the loss and stress and anger and self-hatred. So yeah.
I mean, over the years of him making this, he could only do a few pages at a time. And it took him around 8 to 9 years to finish this whole book, from beginning to end. And then he was at a comic shop that he frequented quite a bit in Detroit. And I guess the dude was starting up a comic shop called Caliber Press, or publisher, I should say.
Yeah, Caliber Comics.
Yeah, Caliber Comics, and was just like, "You got anything or whatever?" And he's like, "I mean, yeah, but I don't know if I want to."
Share it.
And he brought it, he shared it, and the reason he got into it is because they needed to meet a quota, and he got printed because in order to meet the quota that the press was trying to make, they had to do a certain amount of pages or a certain amount of books. And they're like, "Fuck, we need one more book," and James was the one. It's like, I guess the dude didn't even like his book. He was just like, "This is this is so dark and sad."
Yeah, it is. Holy crap.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it's one of those things that's like so personal that it could
Yeah.
never have universal appeal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
it's so of its time and of its style and of its feeling that it is deliberately not made for everybody. And I think that is one of its strongest aspects.
That's what he said too. James O'Barr was just like, "This is not like a superhero thing. This is like a very different sort of story that is not on the shelves today." So, but I mean, then fucking a few years later, after it gets published, the Crow movie happens with Brandon Lee. And
He talks about that being another issue when it came
Yeah.
to his.
there was
just
another issue.
self-hatred.
Brandon Lee dying on set.
Yeah.
And then James went back to blaming himself, and but also grew closer with Brandon Lee's fiance, Evelyn. Is that her name?
I thought it was like Julia or something.
Maybe I could be getting it completely wrong. But Brandon Lee's fiance at the time, he was basically like, "I know what you're going through. I will," like, basically made it a point to check in on that person and be there
Eliza.
for them. Eliza. Okay.
Lies.
So there was a friendship grown there, but he also blamed himself, and it was kind of just a friendship that grew from that. Was like, "Don't blame yourself. It happened. It's not your fault." And he got through it again. So
And that Brandon Lee didn't die on the first Crow. It was the second one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'd finished filming the first, and it was in between that and
It was
wanting
in
to film.
Wilmington, North Carolina, too.
Holy smokes!
And guess who finished the filming? Guess who took his place to do the fight scenes?
James O'Barr. No, I'm kidding.
No.
Keanu Reeves.
The director of John Wick.
Oh, Chad
they-
Stahelski.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's reading through this and trying to just put this in the parlance of our time. I think that was the closest thing I could get to, like, what is it today that would be an average story that could kind of tie to this. And John Wick, I'm like, yeah, I mean, when you have the death of the fiance and then the pet, like the comfort pet that comes around, the only difference is that in John Wick, the pets don't really live all that long. But I love the cat that the Crow has.
Gabriel.
So, yep, Gabriel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's so many nice touches in here. You both touched on this, but Kev, you called it out. All the poetry.
Yeah.
I loved these little breaks in there where you had, yeah, Bailey, I know, spoiler alert. Sorry. The animals and John Wick kind of helped
Sorry
drive
you
the
didn't
story
watch the
along.
first 10 minutes of John Wick. Sorry to spoil
Couldn't
the
stick
first
with it
10
for that
minutes
long.
and core premise of a movie that came out over a decade ago. That's our bad for spoiling that.
I mean, if we're looking at it that way, this stuff came out in what, the 80s, so
Yeah.
we're spoiling this if you've not read it, or watched the original Crow. But I love the breaks in the story because it is, as you both pointed out, it is not for everybody. The book itself is a lot of catharsis through taking out vengeance on people that deserve it, rightfully so. And I think there's a lot of setups in here where it just shows how like bad these people are and how there is really, you don't feel sorry for a lot of the people that end up getting taken out in this book.
Definitely not.
But yeah, I thought that was just a really nice touch. Is as you're reading through all this and you're seeing all of this vengeance and a lot of people dying, then you just get like this 1 or 2 page break, and you get this really cool poem. And a lot of the times it's not credited, so I'm assuming that's James writing these poems.
Yeah.
There are a few that are credited to other people.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was amazing. Just seeing his artwork with some of his original poetry. And again, it is an experiment of art in the various styles that he uses. I love his flashbacks that you'll see in the story, where the flashbacks are really bright and just ethereal, right? The remembering his fiance and all the times that they spent. And it's not just the lightness; it's also the way that he will use his pencil lines, and he'll do a lot more shading and things like that that are lighter and not those harsh inks that you see in like the current day or current storyline. So, yeah, whether it's his writing or just his artwork, it is just an amazing work of art, beginning to end. Seeing somebody put this on the page, and like you were saying, Mary, really for himself. Like the person who this story is for is James. Like this is for him. But it's just great to see, his tragedy and the way he deals with it. It resonates with a lot of other people who have had other tragedies or just dealing with depression and self-doubt and self-hatred. And there are better ways to put those things in action, and putting those on a page instead of taking them out in other ways is definitely preferable, and can be really creative when you see this product.
Yeah. I mean, those little personal moments too that you're talking about with him and his fiance, I feel like those had to be just moments that he had. You know what I mean? That had to just be him putting himself in that and just going back in time and drawing it. I mean, Eric Draven is literally, he's a mechanic. James BARR is a mechanic. He comes home and he dances with his fiance, and yeah, I mean, just those little happy moments definitely adds to the weight of this story too. So definitely
I am
personal.
curious because I can't see Manny's edition. I know, Kev, I think you and I bought the same or close to the same edition. I bought the paperback. Looks like you have the nice hardback version.
Oh yeah.
But just curious what print edition you guys have. It looks like this one that I have is 2017. Is when they printed this one, and it feels like the original core content is there, like 6 parts, or I can't remember what the
Yeah.
original.
The original is 4 or 5 books, I think.
Okay.
And then like everything, so it's basically once you get to the point of, spoiler, we're gonna just dive into the ending. Once he's in the graveyard, and has his last thing with the crow, then this, like, the really nice afterword, which I'm not going to read because it's like thousands of words. It's beautiful. It's some of the best written like shit in the book, honestly.
Right.
But he does like basically everything that happens afterwards is all of the cut pieces that like didn't quite fit in. Because one thing I found really interesting about this whole process is that the page counts and the layouts of the book were dependent on the actual printing, because you would print out what he describes as like a table-sized piece of paper, and read the after. It was huge, and you would have to fold it into an even amount of pages. So it had to be basically divisible by 4, so you could fold it in half, and then fold it in half over and over again. So like it worked in increments of 62, 30, or 16, 32, 48. And so like all of this stuff that comes in the back matter are things that didn't fit in that printing process. And again, if you have this hardcover, it's just explained in the beginning, but I thought it was really rad. All these like extra pages, extra chapters to just kind of fill in the gaps, because as awesome as all these pages are, and I love them because of like how much I love this book, I do not think that they are necessary for the story. Like I think that where the story ends from its beginning, like from the beginning, is amazing. Like I don't think it needs any extra touches. I just think this is all extra nice stuff, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I liked seeing the core story and then getting some glimpses into like filling in some of the gaps. And you know, they are in and of itself entire extra books that would fill in a gap. But like you were saying, Kev, pulling those out really doesn't harm the story much. I am curious, you know, what your thoughts are, Manny, on if you think that impacts the story at all. And I'm also curious about the formatting, because there's some really awesome 2-page spreads that in the current print volume that I have, like Hammer Party is this freaking amazing 2-page spread. And there's another one that's a 2-page spread that ends up getting like printed front to back. And so you don't open it up and I don't get to see it like across from each other. They're unfortunately front to back pages. And I'm like, man, I gotta go photocopy one of the pages and like put them together and just tape it on there so I can do kind of a pin up fold out for it. But I don't know, Manny, what do you think? Does yours kind of have the same flow as well with all the extra fill-in stories in the back?
I don't think I have the fill-in stories in the back. Might be added. When did you say yours was printed? 2017?
The original printing of this hardcover was 2011.
Okay.
But like then they reprinted it in 2017.
Okay. Well,
he has a story called An August Noel. And August Noel is like the very last story he has.
Yeah, and I'm happy to flip through some of these so you can see what you kind of are missing. But basically, it's lots of stuff that like explains backstories that get cut from the original book. So like, let me get through these. So like Atmosphere, there's just stuff with him and his cat, and the August Noel is essentially this whole thematic kind of run.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, where it's this story where Eric and Shelley are sharing what they most want from each other and what they love about each other. She's like, I want to make love under the Christmas tree lights, and he's like, but it's August. And then
that's in the book. That's within the book.
That's within the book.
Yeah, okay. It's not at the end. It's like just placed throughout. So.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Well, it's actually like sequenced out together as like a chapter, basically. Let me find it. There's also a whole passage with the kid Shelly, that he names after the girl, whomever. Yeah, here's the August, or
An August Noel.
An August Noel. I love that they also show the actual sequence of the flashback separate in the back matter here, where when they get killed on the side of the road.
Yeah, it's in the book.
It's in the book.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know if that's like added into the copy you have, like sequentially, and then this is like the original printing versus the stuff they added in later, or I don't know how that actually shook out.
Yeah, weird.
Okay. But yeah, they have like a sequence where the cop is there with him when he like wakes back up from the dead.
Yeah.
And
that too.
That's one of my favorite sequences because they just have the dialogue of the doctors talking over him, and they're just like absolute morbid gallows humor. He won't be playing tennis anymore. Oh, comedian's out of work and you're auditioning in the OR, you know, like who died and left
And
you
then you
go?
just get The Crow, which I thought was cool.
Super dark. Super dark.
Yeah, it's fucked up, but it's awesome. Yeah. I Yeah. But kind of stepping into the sequence of the story. This is obviously a huge book, so we're not going to do our typical page by page analysis of everything that's happening.
No.
But man, oh man, what an intro. Like this goon guy who just looks absolutely frightening with his beefy muscles and the tank top. And then he just, this panel is fucking iconic of just him looming over. Jesus H. Do I have your attention, Mr. Jones?
That's great. You could just hear it, man. It's just creepy.
Yeah.
It's so fucking creepy.
Yeah, and truly, like, I haven't read this book since high school. Like, I remember you lent me your copy, Manny, for a brief period, and I read it. And I was like, I was like, this book is cool. I think I barely understood it when I was like, 14, 15, however old I was. And I was like, there's so much going on. It was before I had even discovered Joy Division on like my own and had a relationship to a lot of goth music. I had seen the movie and thought the movie was fucking badass. I'm pretty sure you and I watched it several times together. like as young men. And it's still a movie that I will just revisit almost yearly. Like it's just so fucking good. And the comic will probably become that as well. Much in the same way that I listen to goth music, like almost seasonally, like with when the seasonal depression rolls in, it's like I need that comfort blanket of sadness, and I think the Crow will naturally work its way into the because the poetry is just so evocative, so moving, because he's using everything from Rimbaud to Baudelaire and like just pulling Joy Division lyrics as dialogue in the book, which I thought was fucking awesome. I don't know if you caught some of those, Manny.
Not all of them, no.
There's some really good ones. Like there's like a shot of him and all. I obviously don't have it bookmarked, but it's like him with a fucking pistol in his hand, and he's like, "I've been waiting for a guide to come and take me by the hand."
Oh shit!
Yeah. And like there's sequences like that are just amazing. And I mean, there's chapters are called "New Dawn Fades," "An Atmosphere," and "Shadow Play," and "Atrocity Exhibition." Yeah.
Big Joy Division fan, for sure.
Cheap viewers.
Which makes total sense.
Oh boy, cheap viewers. Guys, there are cheap viewers.
Oh, wow. Cool.
For cheap.
Thanks. Bye-bye, whoever you are.
You're banned.
Nerd.
Dude, oh my gosh. I just flipping through all this. I think it's so fun to see all these ne'er-do-wells, these, miscreants that are out there. And you guys pointed out the first guy that you see, like he pulls out a switchblade and like stabs the Crow, and the Crow like just stands there with a knife and like pulls it out of himself,
licks it,
and licks it, and then he goes try again and like hands it back to the dude, and he's like, nah, I think I'll pass, it's okay.
Yeah, just the faces, man. Like those giant eyes on Eric is what a touch. I mean, you can feel the emotion every single panel with that guy. And something to look at too throughout this whole book. In the very beginning, looking at this like really buff dude in the alley, looking at his head, his face, looking at Eric's head, his body shape, his proportions. And then as you continue this book, you see it evolve a little bit. Especially Eric. He turns into Iggy Pop.
Not only Iggy Pop, but hold on, I want to find the exact sequence, because one of my favorite, I love the kind of natural, almost like androgyny and feminization of his like physique, even though he's like a buffed, like jacked dude. He's like a ballerina, and it's like so feminine, and it's like almost like that idea of, it's one, the tenderness of his character, but also him like almost absorbing the femininity of Shelley after she dies. Like it's so great. I love the contorted body shapes that he like gets twisted into, but the sequences where he's fucking dancing around his house are so brilliant. Like just heart-wrenching, because she's like, oh, you wanted to learn how to dance, the fuck is that? So many
I was
pages.
gonna say,
Towards the end, I
you
think.
you brought up Iggy Pop. I get like some Bowie vibes at certain
From the
points.
hair, for sure. Yeah, here's
Oh,
like one of
yeah.
my favorite ballet kind of sequences. Him where it's like mixed with him doing pull-ups and push-ups and crunches, and then he's dancing around the room, and like that's pure
Getting
Iggy.
pumped up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, the my favorite sequence in this is the when everyone's shooting at him and his arms are completely like, just thrown up in the air, and you see the car in the background, you see his like freaking fingerprints and shit like inking in the background. So that pose, I love that pose so much. I love
Yeah.
it so much.
Brock, have you never read this book?
Dude.
Brock, you're
Yeah.
gonna fucking love this
You're
book if
gonna
you haven't
love
read it.
You're gonna
Yeah.
Oh my
freaking
god.
love it.
This is Outlaw, man.
That's a thing we haven't even like touched on, is like how very obviously this book is inspired by underground outlaw comics. There's so much like R. Crumb and his faces and his characters, like almost caricatures of humans that he has in this book, and like just the weird like gnarly cross hatching that he'll do on certain pages, and just like the gestures and comedic expressions on people's faces. Like there's so much of that, and it's just fucking rules. And
I mean, there are points in here, and Manny, you probably know better than I do, but there are points where it definitely looks like he's using some kind of ink pen or some type of, and then there are other times where it just looks he's just doing all this real fine cross hatching. I'm like, did he just have a ballpoint and he's just going away, like filling in this stuff, because it looks so scratchy and like gives such a awesome feel to the page.
I love the cross hatching here on his arms as he's tightening up the bandages.
Oh, there's one where he's like walking and you just see his boots on the floor, like as he's. I think it's just after the ballet scene.
Yeah,
and like broken glass.
Again, the hyper almost photorealism that he can like just like dig into, just pull from his bag of tricks out of nowhere. Like I love especially almost this like very romantic, just flowers and wine and broken glass, like just a little still life in there, fun.
Yeah, he's definitely from like, he wasn't a big comic guy per se. He was more like into like classic art and like looking at Rembrandt and everything, like looking at those old school stuff, because he definitely messes with it, and he loves black and white. Like I think when his father would drop him off, which was his parents adopted him. He was an orphan from like very young age. So he pretty much grew up with a whole bunch of kids, like, and then getting sent to somebody's house every weekend, basically, and it was a very rough childhood that he had. But then he gets adopted by this one family, and the dad is a bus driver, and I think he would drop him off at the movie theater once in a while, and that he would spend like all day just watching all these black and white movies and stuff. And so his mind mainly thinks in movies rather than like split scene comics and by the panel. He's trying to figure out where he's going to put that camera, trying to see where he can make things pop with shadow and light and all that. And then taking notes from Rembrandt and everything. Albert Dürer, I'm sure he's probably looking
big time.
With all these crazy techniques. It's stunning.
I love that you brought up that idea that he was just dropped off as a kid, like, to watch movies. I think that the most foundational thing a parent can do with their child, and Ben, you don't have to implement this parenting technique with your children, but is give them almost entirely unstructured time to just do something and occupy their mind. Because I was like listening to Off Panel this week, and it was with these editors that work at IDW. One edits the Godzilla run, and one edits Turtles. They're actually two friends that live together, which I thought was really funny.
That's awesome.
It's a great interview. Just very cool to hear about the editorial process of comics, their journey, the whole thing. But what they all had in common, even with David Harper, the host of Off Panel, is that when they were a kid, they were just dropped off in places like comic book stores and bookstores and libraries to just sit and read comics for hours. And that is a personal experience I have. My mom would go work, and like she would show houses as a real estate agent, and she would just leave me at Barnes and Noble for like 3 or 4 hours at a time, and I would just read comics. Like I would just hide in a corner and read comics.
Yeah. I mean, I
And-
would definitely have my little sketchbook or shitty paper and draw in the corner wherever I was at. I mean,
Yeah.
Maybe
Something-
that's what I need to do. You know, it's really hard to take like screens away and tablets away from them because they're just going to be in the house and that's all they're going to ask for. Maybe I just need to straight up be like, all right, here's the corner. I'll pick you up in like 2 hours back at this corner. I like that idea. And
Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
you can do it in a place that has cameras and like closed in doors and environments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
You know,
libraries
I
are
love
great. You know what I mean? They got comics and books at libraries.
Dude, they got
Honestly,
everything.
yeah. And when I was a kid, like I had family members who literally were just like, I'm not going to buy you toys or video games because you're just going to get bored of them in like 20 minutes, but I'll buy you a book. And so like having unfettered access to any book I wanted to read is like why I'm here right now. Like truly, like
I
would
mean,
not-
I must be doing something right. My oldest is reading the new Stephen King novel, and
Holy shit. Okay.
I'm like, that's impressive. I did
Yeah.
some research. My brother and his wife are listening to the audiobook, and I'm like, is it okay? And I'm like, there's some questionable parts, and so I had him tell me about him, and then I was like, yeah, it's fine. She's seen worse in like, you know, anime and TV shows and things like that.
Bailey
She'll be
said,
fine.
just leave them in a park with a flare gun and their wits. No, it's
You can't use the flare gun as I'm leaving. You gotta save that. So
you only get one flare.
you only get one.
No, it's I mean I was younger than your oldest when I started reading Stephen King and like watching Stephen King movies, so it's totally fine. Though I was reading like It, which like in retrospect not a normal thing for like a 13-year-old to read, but I turned out okay.
I mean, she loves it. She loves it. She loves
Yeah, but has she read It?
Cemetery. Yeah. Oh yeah. She's.
Did she
and I
ask
was
you
like,
about the orgy?
I warned her. I was like, there's something that you may have questions about in the book when it comes to the kids. So, you know, if we need to talk about it, we can talk about it. Or you got to go to your mom.
Look,
like, if you're not comfortable talking
Sweetheart, if you want to conquer your fears, 2
to
words.
dad, no, don't say it. Don't.
Speaking of fears, you know, the fear of losing someone in The Crow, pretty strong.
Man, I was gonna try that one. You got it, Manny. You got it. Beat me to it.
But dude, I'm looking at this one page where he's wrapping his arms up and everything.
Yeah.
And he's looking out of the window, and you see that light coming through. That's all by hand, baby.
Dude.
It's all by hand.
Yeah, the like
That's not digital. That's
is that like
did-
whiteout little splatters to kind of emphasize the glare? Is that what I'm seeing? What is that?
yeah. It's like whiteout specks, and it could be like him rubbing against the Zipatone that he put on there. Because there's like a halftone screen on the window and his shoulders. So he could have taken maybe sandpaper or something and wiped it off. I doubt that. I think it's speckled whiteout.
It looks
Maybe
like that in some parts, and then others I can't tell.
Yeah.
But I mean, he wouldn't do it in different ways on the same page, or would he? I don't know, man. I love the messy, smeary brushstrokes on the wall here, right next to that panel, with this just like crooked arm. Like again, his framings are so fucking good. Just like keeping things like.
Oh wow, your format is even different too, because that
Dude.
page I'm looking at is on the left side, and that one is the page before that you were pointing at. Interesting.
Yeah, that's like what I'm saying. Like, because in this version, he like spliced in new pages and panels.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to steal your copy, Manny, because like I get so sad with Hammer Party being that 2-page spread. There's the attrition one, like you were pointing out, where he's backlit from the car. Like all that's separate pages. Like you have to turn the page to see the rest of it.
Yeah, Manny. Here's
Like,
Hammer
man,
Party.
I really don't think that was his intention, was to have those separate. So
Hey,
a little sad.
Wow, dude. Oh man, they fucked it up.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so if people
Interesting.
want to buy the right book, they need to find the edition that you have, because the Sparkle Horse one, like Sparkle Horse is on, you have to turn the page. And dude,
I
talking
love the
about
Sparkle Horse. Let's talk about Sparkle Horse.
well, talking about the way that he did the effects just on the page that you were talking about, Manny, with the sparkle, like the Sparkle Horse one. Is he just doing like streaks of white out? Is that painted? Like, I am trying to rack my brain figuring out how he did. Is it like a series of ink washes?
You talking
Is
about
freaking
these pages or what? Or later in the book?
later in the book, like
Yeah.
so it's the
Oh
one where
yeah.
cemetery, and then
Dude,
I think this is close to the wrap up
that's crazy.
of the original story.
You messed up the formatting and the print. That's insane.
I mean, James O'Barr like specifically talks in this like edition about how he's like, I don't care. Like essentially.
Yeah.
He's like, we added in what I wanted to and I don't care, and like this is the format. You know what I mean? I don't think
Yeah.
this is like his true intention by any stretch, but like
No.
it has all the spliced in features that he wanted.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know.
Well, but yeah, the Sparkle Horse, this double page spread, if it was formatted correctly, is pretty awesome.
Part of me almost like really enjoyed the breakups of the double page spread just because it added so much like weird atmosphere and tension like in the reading experience. You know what I mean? Like I knew that because like it's mentioned as Sparkle Horse early on in the book and like in the introduction, and so when it says Sparkle Horse, like I knew it was coming and I was like, oh, there's the sparkle and there's the horse, like breaking it up in the same way that you kind of break up the rhythm of reading poetry. Like I don't know, like it felt organic and odd, even though I knew it was wrong because I could very clearly tell that it was these things were supposed to be double page spreads.
It just annoyed me because I'm like, I'm pretty sure this isn't the intention. But
Kevin, I think you have a bad copy. Mine has the spread set up right. Is yours the hardcover from 2017?
Dang, I feel like Bailey got the same one I did.
Huh.
The hardcover. Oh, okay, never mind. Damn, that's crazy.
It,
Yeah, I guess they fucked up and reprinted it.
yeah, I don't know. I don't.
They did.
It genuinely doesn't bother me that much. That's how good this book is. Like,
Yeah. Well, there's that too. I mean, but Ben, to answer your question about what he's using, it's definitely a mix of ink washes, ink, and maybe like whiteout or white gouache that he does on the horse. He mentions that he likes messing with different stuff. He's also a painter too. I know at the back of this book, there's a lot of some like colored paintings of the crow.
oh wow.
Those are so cool.
I just noticed on the very faint on the Sparkle Horse cover that the headstone says Job. I love that.
Oh, it does. Holy shit.
Like definitely. I mean, there's so many biblical references throughout this story, but that's a really strong one. The idea of the trials enduring trials being put through by God is like pretty fucking spot on.
James O'Barr definitely felt that.
Oh, it could also just be J-O-B for James O'Barr.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, true.
Now I'm the English teachers who's like, why are the curtains blue? You know what I mean? It's all an allegory for industrialization.
But yeah, he messed with so many different mediums in this book, especially him adding the stuff later on with different ink washes, and then like what is it, the beginning with the horse? Is that pencil or is that also ink wash?
At the very beginning, because he does talk about that.
Ruining Kevin's lore boner. Look, I am always half cocked with a lore boner at any given time.
Oh yeah, that's at like the beginning called "Shattered in the Head." That looks like charcoal or some kind of
you can see
charcoal and pencil.
Yeah, you can see some lines in the background. So I think it's like a mix of him using a pencil and then going over it with wash.
Yeah. God,
it looks
so
gorgeous.
I absolutely love the entire metaphor of the horse, man.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
So good. Him watching death and not being able to do anything about it as like the way to frame the story. But while also giving you like a sprinkle of the Crow lore, the kind of abstract nature of the afterlife and the kind of logic here. The Skeleton Man. The Skeleton Man is like a whole other thing where like I was looking at the new Crow movie stuff and then somebody commented it's like Skeleton rides in on the train at the end of the new Crow movies, and he puts on an eye patch and says, "I'm putting together a team."
Oh, man, the towards the end where he's finally dealing with all the towards the end of the regular story, I should say. I don't know. Again, the formatting of our books are so different.
It's crazy.
But when he finally is talking about how he's in hell and is asking the Crow, like, how do I get, like, why isn't this over? How do I get out of here? And you get the Hey
God damn it.
Gunslinger, and as you turn the page, it's the skeleton sheriff standing in front of the black train, and it's a Cadavre Exquis. Cadavre
Fucking
Exquis.
face cam fucked up. That's so annoying.
Uh-oh. We got some stuff messed up on our end.
Shit's all frozen. That's so annoying.
Oh man. That's all right.
Oh, like your face cam is, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Now I'm trying to reconnect it. Yeah. Yeah, your face cam is going fine. I mean, my audio is good, but okay.
But I think
we shall adjust.
We jumped around a lot. We haven't talked about the story. I don't know. We jumped around a lot and we haven't talked about the story. I don't know if we want to just kind of give folks who are listening and watching just kind of a breakdown of the story itself, just to let them know, this is kind of what they're in store for with the Crow.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like we did go off.
I mean, the story, like, yeah, because like there truly isn't like too much like nuance or complexity to the plot itself. Like it really is just a cut and dry revenge story, and what like most impactfully frames it is its tone, its style, the poetry that weaves through it, the metaphors kind of present. But honestly, it's a guy who watches his love die and he comes back to life to exact revenge on her killers. And it's very straightforward.
Yep.
I was gonna say I didn't know if we got that far. I know, Manny, you talked about the real life experience, and then we talked about the gallows humor in the morgue. But I was like, wait a minute, I probably just missed it. Apologize. Napping or something while we're doing that part.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, when he was making this, it was kind of broken up. As the story goes on, you don't know exactly what happened. You're kind of just going through the motions. Like, this guy's pissed off. Like, they killed somebody he loves, and then you finally get all the pieces together towards the end as the story continues.
Which is like immediately more impactful, like as a storytelling like device.
Definitely.
You don't want to just over-explain it and spoon-feed the story to him?
Yeah, that's one thing he talked about too in his interviews is like, I didn't want to do that. He didn't want to spoon-feed people. He's like, the readers are going to be intelligent. Like, I don't want to offend somebody and be like, here you go, here's another spoon. Like, you can figure it out.
No,
you get it.
And the thing
you
is
you
like,
want a bottle, baby? Here you go.
Yeah, and like truly, like people don't want to feel smarter than the person writing the story. Like the whole fun of storytelling is that you don't know who everyone is, what their motivations are, and where everything's going, and you want to be guessing. In fact, you want to feel like you have an air of supremacy over the writer. So you'd be like, I figured it out, it's this, and then it turns out no, it was another guy. Oh, this is what actually happened. Like, it is better storytelling to have the viewer constantly guessing, or the reader.
Yeah.
Oh, nipples on stream.
Uh-oh.
Gotta be
But it's
careful. Yeah, it's
I
art.
love how manic. I love how manic the Crow is. That was the one thing I thought was so interesting, and I don't know if he was taking influences from the Joker with just doing more the straight faced one, but there's so many times where he is there. The one I was thinking of is really cool where he takes out the one guy. There's two street thugs that like end up killing this guy in a basement somewhere, and as they're after they've killed the dude, like the other guy, one dude just loses his head, and it's because
yeah.
the Crow is like standing there with a sword and just like lopped his head off, and then he cuts the light, and like all the lights go out, and he ends up hacking the dude like just above the ankle, like hacking both of his feet off
Just
of
the boots.
him, just the boots. And as the dude's like sitting there, he's asking him questions, like being super calm. After he was just like, he's like,
so
"I'll
much
take this
blood.
one dude's head off. I'll cut this guy's legs off. All right, now we can talk. So, I'm looking for something. Can you help me out?" And the guy's just like, "My feet are cold. Can I have my boots?" And he's like, "You'll be asleep in a few minutes. It's okay."
I also love the guy who gets his head blown off in the car, and
I
then
was going to talk about that one too. Yeah.
Shelby is
Yeah.
just like
Oh,
talking to
the
him.
shotgun.
Yep. And he's just talking to him the whole time, like he's just like high out of his mind. I don't know.
I mean, they are all cranked up on meth, basically meth and
Yeah.
like heroin throughout the whole book.
Yep. Dude,
Little speedball.
it's insane.
Oh, gosh, Fun Boy. Fun Boy's the guy that like is the closest to the heroin addict, and he ends up giving him morphine. And Fun Boy's the one that like kind of gets to take himself out because he gives the Crow essentially hands him a lethal dose of morphine. Is like, here you go, take this. And, like the Crow stabs himself with 2 needles and then starts to like carve this crown of thorns on his chest. And it's just like, it's so bizarre. All this stuff is going on where it's like, we're real calm. We know stuff's terrible, but I'm just gonna do this really crazy shit to myself. And then the writing in blood on the wall after Fun Boy's dead.
Yeah.
It's just, I know why Jesus wept, motherfucker. It's so.
Oh, man. The one line when he goes to the heroin addict's like apartment and Sherry's mom is in there.
Oh
Yeah.
my fucking
He
god!
holds her head and it's like mom is the name that kids call, or whatever the fuck the line is. Where is it?
Just trying to flip to it. Because at first he starts out all lovey-dovey. Like, it seems like everything's going to be okay. You need to go take care of your kid.
Right. Yeah. But that's in the movie. Like, they kept that in the movie, too. Which
I'm scared. Go from this place, Sandy, before he sucks all the light from your eyes. Sherry is waiting. And then he, like, grabs her by the side of the head. Mother is the name for God in the lips and hearts of all children. Do you understand? Do you understand? And I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's like, oh, man. Fantastic. I just remember Brandon Lee delivering that shit. It was so good.
It's really hard for me to not want to just go watch The Crow, like after reading this.
Yeah, Bailey and I watched The Crow not too long ago, and then seeing like the new Crow come out, and then seeing that stuff, and was listening to an interview that was pretty recent. I think it was 2024 with James O'Barr, and he was like, "Yeah, I had nothing to do with that fucking movie. I just got a nice paycheck." So,
Oh God.
but with the original one, he was pretty involved with it, and also helped out with like choosing the music and everything. Like he got the vibes down for sure. So that's pretty sick. But like the new stuff, he's like, I don't fucking know. I don't care. Whatever. I get a paycheck. I said what I had to say with my story, and if people want to see it, they can go get it, read the book.
Yeah, which is code for this movie's gonna fucking blow chunks.
Yep. Not at all
I think you guys have done your pre-movie review, so we all know the way you
It's not a crow.
stand on the first crow and the new crow.
Dude, there's
And,
a whole scene in the trailer of him in the the freaking death, like his underworld or whatever. I'm like,
Oh,
no,
shit.
what are we doing here?
I don't even think that I actually watched a trailer for this movie.
I wanted to see how bad it's gonna be. The action scenes look cool. I'll give them that. Other than that, I'm not. No.
But again, like, if you're fucking consuming The Crow as an action movie, you're fundamentally misunderstanding what The Crow
Missed it.
is.
That's the point, dude. Yeah.
That's
Missed the whole point.
let's see. So Brock says we'll do a watch party on the original Crow this weekend over Discord.
Word.
no Skarsgård could save this upcoming movie. The thing is, I actually like this Skarsgård. I mean, as much as I hated the new It movies, I thought he was great as Pennywise. And I also love the other Skarsgårds. They're all good.
Yeah. Dude, so good. Fucking Northman? You kidding me?
The Northman, he was great in True Blood as well.
Oh, that's right. Suki.
He wasn't that guy. He was the guy who owned the strip club.
Yeah. Well, he was still in love with Suki. Right?
Everybody was in love with Suki.
Yeah.
That's valid.
Everyone wanted some Suki, dude.
Suki.
I was waiting for somebody to do that. I'm like, it's gonna happen.
Suki. Sorry, I watched a lot of True Blood when I was a kid.
How does he say? He's like Suki or no? Does he even say Suki? Like,
I don't know. I just think of Bill, the other, the main Suki. Anna Paquin couldn't get it. Yeah, but this isn't about True Blood. This is about The Crow.
That's true.
And The Crow fucking rules. I mean, I don't know. There's so much. Like, I feel like we've been with a lot of books. There is so much to dissect and so many possible outlets and interpretations for what things could mean and where stories should go. And with this, like, I don't have any feedback from like a narrative or critical perspective. You know what I mean? It's not like a if this then that, and you could have structured this way. Like, it's so hard for me to give that kind of feedback to something that's so personal and so poetic and abstract. Like, it really just feels like I'm supposed to experience the art and feel the way it makes me feel, and that's the most honest like relationship I could have with this. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter what I say or what I think things mean or anything like that, because at the end of the day, it's just how this book made me feel. And it made me feel so empty and crushingly alone in the most beautiful and like achingly poignant way.
Yeah. It made you feel something. It's all feeling in here, man. It's so good. I mean, like I said before, that's one of the reasons I love this book. Like, me diving into wanting to make comics, and then this is like the first big book that I got. I was just like, holy shit. This was this guy's first book?
Yeah,
well, like you said, it was something he wasn't even planning on publishing.
Yeah, it wasn't.
This was his first thing, and he was just like, it's all passion.
It's like reading someone's diary.
Yeah, pretty much.
He did do another
story. I mean, he's done a few other stories, but one I think is on the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel that I think it's like a Wile E. Coyote, but like super gory story that he did. It's awesome.
I know so little.
The title of it,
I know so little about James O'Barr, honestly.
He hasn't done a whole lot. But yeah, he pretty much just paints in his house and does a few projects here and there. And a funny thing too about like another movie they were supposed to make is that he was also in like pretty close to the director and everything. And I don't know if he mentioned the director's name or whatever, but Jason Momoa was adamant on being the Crow. He was like, I'm playing Aquaman right now, but I will lose 80 pounds to do this. Like, I want this so bad. And James O'Barr's like, dude, you were like so big.
No.
Although it is interesting because doesn't the crow say that, or someone says in here that like the crow's at least 7 feet tall, which I think is interesting, like talking about just the scale of how big this person is. And I think it kind of goes to that what you're talking about, Manny. He stretches and like changes the physiology of the crow,
Oh,
which it all could just be based on who he's interacting with at the time and how they perceive him. So
Right.
with it not coming, because I don't think it comes from the crow's mouth, it comes from somebody else's mouth. It's them projecting. Like he's
Yeah. He's a
such an
powerful guy.
imposing figure. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's fear incarnate.
That's right. And I love the hair too. The way he renders the hair, the crow's hair throughout this whole thing.
It is a freaking kick-ass mullet to the nth degree.
Just like the white and the black, like you don't see all those strokes of hair or whatever, all the noodles, it's just shape. Boom, there it is. There's light coming behind him. Looks good.
I think this is one of my favorite pages, along with the dialogue on it.
Yeah, I was just looking at that one.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And also, if we look at the guns throughout this whole thing, you notice that they're pretty damn well, like they're well rendered,
Yeah.
right? And he did manuals in the Marines. He would draw out manuals for guns and stuff when he was in the Marines. So that skill was definitely
Interesting.
in the book. So pretty cool.
Well,
dude, it's so good. If you don't, I mean, I think dialogue is so hard to do just being an artist, but something like 7 blackbirds in a tree, count them and see what they be. 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a girl, 4 for a boy, 5 for silver, 6 for gold, 7 for a secret that's never been told. You're all going to die. Like, what the fuck? Like, shit's about to go down. And then he throws an axe like at a dude and like nails the dude in the It's so insane. I absolutely love it. It's so cool.
I really love writing like this and like just the amount of poetic qualities it has, because it really pushes like my brain, and it's like to the limits of what comics can be, what you can get away with. Because it's honestly like in so many of the exchanges between like the gang members where they're like speaking in half sentences that are like slang, and they're like not always talking to each other, but rather like through each other and at each other. Like it's like really weird and like off cadence. I don't know, man. Like the slang didn't quite make sense, but it had such a heft to it. I loved it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it was probably real. He probably heard all like that type of shit being told around him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, not exactly stuff like this, but not in the same context of getting shot at and everything. But
it makes me feel bad for what is it, Jones transfer? But dude, just the beginning. I love the caricature that he has. Make me puke. These folks can't feed them their kids, but they got Toshiba. Now Jones transfer got Toshiba. Yes, sir. I'll be in the Rock big time. Like it's just they're all such characters in the way they talk.
Yeah.
It's the drugs, man, Bailey says. It's the drugs.
That too. Gosh.
But looking through this, I mean, Manny, this was one of your favorites, and I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, I totally get why Manny does what he does. But reading through this, I'm like, shit, okay, I can see why this is like one of Manny's faves. Like, there's so many cool, crazy art styles. There's so much noodling and detail, and it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like he sat here and was like forcing himself to do this. This is just him noodling and doing what he loves.
And he's
totally
experimenting. Like he's putting in photos and stuff and some things like backgrounds and whatever. He's messing with perspective. He's doing whatever, like there's no rules. It's just paper, man. Just do what you want. Like what manga artists do when they do super cartoony stuff, and then the next page you turn and it's like a crazy rendered out battlefield with a million people, and it looks like a photo, but it's all line, baby.
Or there's
crazy.
just somebody's face that's like been hyper realized or hyper
Yeah.
realized. So
And then
yeah.
the next one, they're a chibi looking character. So
Yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, and then him mixing in like what I thought was amazing was him mixing in the ink washes like right next to the inked pages and stuff. I know it's added later, but it's what a collection, you know. I would like to see what it was originally, like
Oh yeah.
everything, like how that looked. That would be cool to see. Um, but man, it's fantastic. I love this book.
Yeah, this book is. I don't know if there's a comic book I've ever read like it. Honestly, like it's so.
Yeah.
It feels so of its time, but like totally ahead of its time. Like I don't know how.
Right.
Like which is kind of cliche to say, but it's just like the influence this book had on comics can like not be overstated.
Yeah. And it happened so fast too, like him making this thing, and then he finishes it, and then a few years later, like he basically gets a movie deal. It's like, what the hell? Yeah, that's a rare thing. It's a very rare thing. I think it was like probably after the Turtles came out, or a successful superhero movie came out, and then people are like, oh, let's try this.
Was
So
this
studios
before or
were like,
after Blade?
Before, I think.
Let me do some quick googling.
Blade come out.
Because Blade was a really big deal for comic book movies.
Yeah. I still go back and watch Blade.
Oh no, it's 4 years before Blade.
Yep.
Blade was 98 and The Crow was 94.
What about Punisher? Was Punisher after Blade?
That was like the Dolph Lundgren Punisher?
Dolph Lundgren was before. And then
Yeah.
what
John
was the one-
Travolta, Thomas Jane, that was like 2003, 2004.
Oh crap. Okay. I thought that was in the 90s for some reason.
I mean, they did have that super old Punisher movie that was awful.
Yeah, that was like late 80s Dolph Lundgren as the Punisher.
Yeah.
When he's in the sewers and like meditating with all the candles, it's hilarious.
Yeah, 89 was Dolph Lundgren. I mean, I guess like the only like because this was 89, Batman was 89. Like,
Oh, it was right after. Yeah, it was after Batman.
Batman
That's
Returns
when
was like
the movie
91 or
came.
92, you know, and that was like,
Yeah. They're like, oh, it works, and so they, licensing out other comics to test it out, and this was one of them.
here's
And it turned
something
out to be
about the
amazing.
history and context that and maybe none of us have the exact timeline here, but I'm just curious. Is like, where does this relate to guys like Harvey Pekar and like late R. Crumb? Like, was Pekar already up and going with Diary Comics? You know what I mean? Like, because like
Yeah.
I know that Diary Comics are fucking huge now, and like they were big in the 90s and the early 2000s, but like, was The Crow very early on the train, or am I just like totally off with my timelines?
Yeah, I think it was probably around the same time. A little, I think the Crow's a little later.
Yeah.
Because Mark Rum, he was doing stuff like in
Yeah.
the
Oh yeah,
70s.
I know he
Yeah.
was ahead of that. Yeah.
So, and he was, yeah.
I mean, obviously,
He's-
an influence on this book.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know exactly what he was looking at the time, but I mean, maybe diving into that.
Early 70s is like Pekar and Crumb's first stuff.
Mm.
72
Well, I mean,
to
think
75.
about Crumb. I mean, Frazetta. We were just looking at a bunch of stuff this weekend, Manny, that would kind of fit some of that when you think Barry Windsor Smith and
Oh, he had a
some
fucking
of the
great.
highly noodled inks and things like that.
Barry Windsor Smith stuff. He's definitely
Yeah,
looking at that.
he shouts it out in the book. He has an amazing passage about his thank yous to other artists.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull this
Yeah.
shit up.
Was it in the very beginning, right?
I thought it was at the end,
At the end? Oh, okay. Yeah.
like after the afterword.
All this stuff has so much content in it. This book is really amazing with
Yeah,
how
if
much
you
they
like back matter, woo-wee. This is all basically everything I'm flipping through right now is back matter. It's like added on to the book. So hold on, where's the quote? Oh yeah. Thanks to these outstanding artists, Will Eisner for showing me how to choreograph a scene, Bernie Wrightson for showing me how to light that scene, Michelangelo for helping me keep that scene real, and Frank Frazetta for helping me keep that scene sexy. He also ends the passage with thanks to heroin for absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Yep. Heard it here, folks.
I also love his tribute to the poetry. Thanks to the poets for teaching me the magic of language and the beauty of clang associations. George Bataille, Antonin Artaud, Arthur Rimbaud, Paul Verlaine, and mostly Charles Baudelaire. Those frogs know their shit. A great French slur, calling them frogs. And then, of course, he has his albums that he was listening to. I'm not going to list all of them, but there's Joy Division, Jim Carroll, Big Black, Game Theory, Pitch Shifter, The Sound, Codeine, and The Cure. There's amazing records in here. So I don't know. Here, I'll hold it up to the camera in case the viewers at home want to write these things down. If you haven't listened to these records, obviously, if you haven't listened to some of them, I would be genuinely worried about you. You haven't listened to Unknown Pleasures, you know what I mean? You haven't listened to Faith or Pornography by The Cure? God damn, come on, you're missing out.
Well, I was going to say, too, you missed the art nerd side, because he does say, thanks to the creativity, alchemy of Higgins Black Magic ink and a number 4 sable brush.
Yeah, I don't do that shit.
Yeah. For all you artists out there wanting to know his recommendations.
But I think we're kind of just talking in circles now, so we'll cut this here. But as always, closing thoughts, gentlemen. Manny, because you are our gracious shepherd through the crow. Why don't you start?
Yeah. Dude, it's good. I mean, I just love how he puts literally everything he loves into this book. I mean, his heart and soul. I've said it before, but just taking everything that he's learned from all the artists that we just read from, Bernie Wrightson, Will Eisner, all those folks, Joy Division, The Cure, putting it all in there, ingesting it, putting it out there into the world, and then healing himself, which is a beautiful thing. This is why this book is a must-have on the shelves. That's my hot take. Take it, get it, steal it. I don't know, or maybe not steal it.
Rent it from your local library. Go to your LCS and buy it. Acme, if Jermaine, Ben, Austin, if you ever watch this, why don't you stock some extra copies of The Crow on the shelves for the lovely people? Okay, they need The Crow.
The right edition too, like not
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, not my edition.
Not this one.
That you guys got.
Yeah, not this one.
But
many formatting issues.
However, yeah, I think that this book is beautiful. It makes me feel things. It's unlike any other comic book I've ever read, despite its influence on so many comics that I've read. It's dark, it's haunting, it's so painful, it's sad, and glorious. And I love things that make me feel things. And this is one of those things. So if you want to connect with your art in some capacity, I would read The Crow. And if it doesn't make you feel anything, go fuck yourself.
You're crazy if it doesn't make you feel anything. Also, if you like Berserk, then you're gonna like this. Just
big time.
Super dark and gruesome. Yeah.
Ben, closing thoughts.
All right. So again, coming at this from the newbie perspective, I will say it is amazing to see an artist that continued to play and just experiment with their style. And James found a way for it to all fit together. And it's just amazing to see someone that was so confident with the story that they wanted to tell. It's not like I never felt like he was straying from where he wanted this to go. It was all very linear. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. I will say I am jealous. It sounds like the book that I would love to have is the one that Manny and Bailey have, just from a formatting perspective. Because I think, and it's just me being particular from being able to, I want to see the artwork as it was intended.
Right.
But as far as if you want to see someone who can just go whole hog or ham on different styles and make it all fit and see how one artist can do all this. It's not a collection of artists all piling in. This is just, it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, satisfying end. All the back matter adds some color, but like you said, Kev, you don't lose anything if it's not there. So absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend.
Hell yeah. Buy this book at your local LCS. Acme Comics in Greensboro, Capital Comics in Raleigh. There's others. If you have them, comment them in the chat or on YouTube. We are always going to look out to support cool comic book stores. Get this book, light some candles, listen to some goth music, and just feel your feelings. You know what I mean? Just feel them. They're there in your heart. Just feel them.
Oh, yeah.
And with all matters of the heart, Mouthbreathers Guild signing off. We love you. Remember, join the Discord if you want to keep talking to us about comics. If you buy The Crow and you want to talk to somebody about it, you can do it on the server. Trust me, we'll talk to you about The Crow as much as you want. We love this book. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Oh, and for those of you who didn't catch it, it's going to be on YouTube. I don't know why I'm saying that now. It's not like you're going to hear it here and then you're going to go watch it on YouTube. But anyway.
YouTube.
Yeah. All right. Mouthbreathers Guild, we love you.
Peace.
Peace.